When poverty and ignorance affect a society, they change it. They destroy it. It is impossible to find a society that is poor, with high morals and is well prepared. Poverty makes societies corrupt. It gives people excuses to commit crimes and corrupt behaviors. The nature of poor societies increases crimes because the poor person, who does not find a natural opportunity to save for himself or his family, his basic needs, may resort to crime because he has no choice. I am Amar Al-Bayt. Of course you remember me, still in the name of Haram as I am, and I still get complicated and strange cases. Today I want to tell you about a case that started with a very normal report and ended with a disaster. A very big disaster. Peace, mercy and blessings of God be upon you. I am Olivert James. This is the narrator episode of the new episode. Between these two stories and with the renewal for adults only. Guys, this episode is for adults only. Children are not allowed to listen. They are not allowed to listen to them for more than 16 years. Parents listen and deliver what they want to deliver, from letters to their children. But if you are a father and a mother, and you listen to your children, like many people who send us, this story is for adults only. This is because there are some specific events and some scenes, stories and events that children are not allowed to hear. Today's episode is from Olivert James' book, and it is about a very important case that we must talk about because it happens and it will happen and it happened and there were problems and we don't want to neglect these things. I don't want to take too much time. The story is important. Let's start with the events. It was a night, as usual, in the name on a rainy day. It was cold, and the weather was calm. There were no worries today. The reports were passing by. I was bored when I suddenly heard a report about an apartment in a building close to the name. The report said that there was a scream, and it was clear that someone was being beaten in this apartment, which is the place of the report, and that the neighbors knocked on it, but no one opened the door. The same report was repeated more than 7 times. 7 people reported it. As I told you, I was bored, and I didn't believe that I was leaving the name. Let's see what happened. I went out with a small boat, and we arrived at the building. The building looks nice. It doesn't indicate that it is haunted or that it is haunted, but I got used to it and I wasn't judged by appearances. I said to myself, wait until you enter and make sure of yourself. I met the door and a man was standing in front of the building, talking on the phone, and as soon as we noticed, he turned off the phone and came running. We entered the building, and there were a lot of people gathered inside the entrance, many women and men, and they were all talking at the same time. They all said that they were sure that there was a disaster. I asked them to calm down and let us do our job and see what was going on. The apartment was in the 2nd floor. I knocked on the door, and the doorbell rang, but there was no sound. One of the neighbors came out with us, and I asked him, "Are you sure that this is the apartment where the sounds you said were coming from?" He said, "Yes, sir, the sounds remained for more than an hour and then they stopped. We tried to knock a lot, but no one opened the door and we couldn't do anything, so we decided to report, because we were sure that something had happened to them inside, or they had killed each other. So, Soldier Ali, come here, break this door for me." The soldier, without saying a word, broke the door, and the door opened. I asked the soldiers to prevent anyone from entering, and I entered. Everything looked normal at the entrance, but when I started to look around the apartment, I noticed that there were a lot of broken things. Other things were not in their place. This was not their normal place. And the more I entered, the more things got more and more messed up. It was as if there was a war in the place. I passed in front of the bedroom, and I noticed that there was something strange. I didn't understand what it was at first, but when I looked closely, I found a woman's body. She was wearing underwear, and she was hanging from her neck in the attic by a rope. I didn't know if she was dead or still alive, so I ran to her, and I shouted at one of the soldiers, "Come quickly, help me take her down." We took her down to the ground, and I put my hand on her neck to see if there was still a pulse or not, and I felt a very light pulse. Immediately, I called the ambulance, and I tried to call the first aid. Maybe I could catch up with her. Suddenly, I heard a soldier saying, "Sir, there is a body." So I immediately moved in front of the woman's body, and I went to the soldier's position. Next to the bed, there was a man's body. The man was wearing a white shirt, soaked in blood, and around him was a large pool of blood surrounded him from all directions. I tried to get close to him, but I couldn't, and I put my hand on his neck, but I found him dead. There was no pulse. His body was very cold, and it was a dead end. I went back to the woman who was still breathing, and I tried to help her, but the first aid came, and they took her to the nearest hospital. I tried to help her, but I couldn't. After the first aid came, they took a picture of the crime scene and took the man's body, but there was nothing to prove the woman's identity. But there was a passport for the man, and it came from one of the Arab countries. It wasn't Egyptian. It was clear from the passport that he was always wandering around the country, and he came many times a year and almost every year. It was clear to everyone that this was an easy case. Someone decided to hire a woman to spend a night with him, and they disagreed on something, and she decided to kill him, and then she killed herself. It was an easy case, but was it really over? Unfortunately, this was just the beginning. The beginning of the line that led to the biggest disaster I have ever seen until today. We started our investigations immediately, and we didn't have any clear information about anything. The woman we found in the crime scene was unknown, but her fingerprints indicated her name was Maha. She had been a teacher for 4 years in a private school. She traveled to one of the Arab countries and came back 2 years later. The same Arab country from which the man, his name Faisal, came from. Could there have been a relationship between them from the beginning? We'll see. Other than that, there was nothing special. The investigations confirmed that she was a very ordinary woman from a simple family. She lived in an urban area and was married and traveling, and then she had an argument with her husband and got divorced and came back 2 years later. Natural things don't justify her presence in this apartment with this man. And here we come to the apartment. At that time, we didn't have any plan to follow except the apartment. I called the gate to know exactly where the owners of the apartment were, and as soon as he came in front of me, I could see his anxiety and fear. He said, "I didn't do anything and I don't know anything. And who told you that you are here because you did something? You are here to help us. You give us some simple information and you go home. I'm under your command, Dad. Who is the owner of the apartment number 6 in the building you work in?" "Mr. Ahmed Jamal and his wife Haram." "And where are Mr. Ahmed Jamal and his wife Haram?" "They are not here, Dad." "Do you mean they live somewhere else?" "No, Dad. I mean, it's not exactly you." "Hakam, talk to me. Explain yourself. Do you mean they live in the building or not?" "Mr. Ahmed and his wife have been traveling for a long time. More than 3 years. And when they have been traveling for 3 years, who rents their apartment?" "I don't know, Dad. I don't know." "Why don't you know? Aren't you the owner of the building? You rent an apartment in the building and you don't know who rents it?" "I don't know, Dad." "Are you the one who rents it, Hakam? And who is responsible for it? Do you know them? If they are responsible for it, it's a big case." "No, Dad. I swear I know them." "Okay. You are the one who rents it." "Yes, Dad. Yes." "And who is the last person to rent it from you?" "Actually, Dad. Actually, again, don't talk. Give me the truth." "Actually, Dad, this time I didn't rent it for free, because I want to take all the money. Actually, my daughter is sick, Dad, and Mr. Ahmed doesn't give me anything, even though I rent it to him with a lot of money." "So, you are trading without knowing the owners of the apartment and you have the money in your pocket." "Okay, Hakam. I didn't hear anything you said. So, in return for telling me who you rent it to Sabri, Dad, the owner of the tourist office in the street behind the building." "What's his name, Sabri? And what's the name of the office? And where is his address exactly?" "Sabri Al-Bub, Dad. And this is the name I know. And his office is also called Al-Bub." I took the address from the gate and let him go. And immediately I called Sabri Al-Bub. Sabri was a strange person. His way of dressing, his way of talking, his way of walking, everything about him was strange. Everything says that this person is behind a big conspiracy. "Are you Sabri Al-Bub?" "Yes, sir. I am Sabri. The gate of building number 8 in the Haram area said that you rented from him apartment number 6 in his building. Is this true?" "Yes, sir. Indeed. I am the owner of a tourist office and this is my job." "And who did you rent it to?" "I have a client from an Arab country. And what's the name of this client? His name is Faisal Al-Ahmed. And was this Faisal alone when you rented him the apartment, or was he with someone else? Yes, of course he was alone. I mean, he wasn't with his wife, his girlfriend, his friends. He wasn't with a woman, after all. No, he was alone. I don't work in the north of Gaza. What do you work for? I am a tourist office. Tourists come to me and want a car to rent and drive while we provide it for them. They want a driver with the car while we provide it for them. They want an apartment while we provide it for them. They want a tourist program while we provide it for them. But women and work in the north are forbidden between us. Do you have any papers or contracts between you and Faisal? No, sir. The man came to us to rent an apartment while he was here until he left his country. We provided him with an apartment and nothing else. We don't know anything about him. I haven't even taken the rent yet. Did he do anything? Yes, he did. Faisal was killed. He was killed by a woman named Maha. I swear to God, may God have mercy on him. Who is Maha bint al-Haram? Why did she do this to this good man? Didn't you know he was dead? No, I didn't. How would I know? Sabri is walking and I'm sure there's something behind him. His way of talking and his reaction when I told him that Sabri was killed confirmed that there's something behind him. But I still don't know what it is. I asked Sabri and his office for more information and I had a feeling that this case is still pending. The report of the crime factory confirmed that the cuts on the knife are the same as Maha's. Faisal was also killed due to the loss of a large amount of blood as a result of more than 7 stabs in the abdomen and chest. Some of the stabs were fatal and some were superficial. It was caused by many cuts which led to Faisal's death. At the same time, Maha was in the hospital in good physical condition, but she was in a state of shock. The report of the poisoning analysis confirmed that the victim Faisal was completely healthy, but his blood pressure rose due to the obvious effects of Viagra. The report of the poisoning analysis confirmed that Maha was taking a type of tranquilizer which doesn't cause addiction, but it affected Maha's general behavior. Faisal's report was very normal, there was nothing strange or incomprehensible, but Maha's report was at least incomprehensible to me. How can you take a tranquilizer in large amounts, and how did this violent reaction occur? Especially that it is very clear that she lost her temper. If she refused to be with him to the extent of killing him, why did she leave at first? She could have walked or refused to leave and that's it. The doctor advised Maha to go to a psychiatrist and the psychiatrist confirmed that she was in a state of shock and a new shock and started with a tranquilizer. Of course, with the start of the psychotherapy I had to wait until Maha's state was completely stable and then I could answer her. The special investigations of Sabri Elbab finally reached me, and he really had a tourist office, but it was clear in the investigations that there was a suspicious activity happening in this office. And this office was proven to provide services to tourists such as rental cars, tour guides, tour programs, hotel reservation, but there was also something mysterious in the investigations, people coming in and out, a strange movement, and there was something incomprehensible. I felt that Sabri Elbab was the key to the case, and that he was not innocent, but I did not have anything in my hand that I could hold. If I had only one evidence against him, I would not have left him, but there is nothing. The case was almost in Maha's favor, and I have been waiting for more than 2 weeks for her state to settle down, and her therapist to give me any confirmation that she will be able to answer at this time. I went to the hospital and sat with her in the doctor's room, and she was completely quiet. She looked at the floor screaming without a sound. The officer is coming to talk to you. Maha looked at the doctor and shook her head. The doctor told me, do you need anything? Should I send you something from the buffet? No, thank you. Is Maha okay? Maha's condition is stable and she will be able to talk to you. I thanked the doctor and I sat in front of her. I wanted to see her face clearly when I talked to her, because I felt that this girl is more valuable than she does. I did not want to talk to her in a difficult or violent way because I did not want her to be afraid of me or feel nervous to prevent her from talking. How are you, Maha? I am fine, thank God. Is that so, Maha? Did you want to kill yourself? Did you mean me? They told me that you are the one who saved me. I wish you had left me. I wish I had died. I wish you had left me to go to God. He is the one who took care of me. God is the one who extended your life until we got to you, and he could not leave you. It does not matter. Tomorrow I will be executed and die. Death is coming, even if it delays a little. What happened, Maha? What made you kill Faisal? Because he deserves death. He deserves slaughter. If I could kill him again, I would have done it. Why? What did he do to you? Not one day, not one day. Did you know Faisal before? 4 years ago, did you have a fight? Did you know? There was something bad between us. I hate him. I hate every cell in my body. I hate him. Maha, I need to know more. What happened 4 years ago? I was born in a family like him, a poor family. We all live in an apartment, a room and a living room, 4 daughters and 2 sons. My father and my mother. My father never worked. He never stayed at home or had coffee with his friends. I have never seen him work. My mother was the one who used to work to provide for us a living. I wish he had mercy on her. He used to beat her in public and in private. He used to beat her. She could not even open her mouth in front of him. She could not speak. She used to beat him. An object. She used to give him all her money, and he used to spend it. My mother taught me. And my brothers, when I graduated, I decided to work, and God blessed me with a job in a school. The salary was good, but God used to send me a lesson from here to there. I was happy. I used to help my mother in the house, but she was worried. And my father would not give me anything, but my mother got tired. She had a kidney failure, and we did not have enough money to spend, and if she waited for the government's free, she would die, and she was still waiting. It was not their solution, but ours. I had just graduated, and I had been working for a few months. I did not continue for 22 years. My father took me from him and gave me to the devil called Sabri the dog. My mother was begging him not to do what he was going to do, but he didn't listen to her, and he took me to Sabri. Sabri has a tourist office. He works in front of people for tourist services, but in the dark, it was a special office for tourist visas. Don't be surprised. This is a big and well-known office. He rents it to women and girls for tourists. He doesn't have a formal marriage certificate. Men and young men also rent it to older women who come to have fun. They accompany them and live with them for 2 days. After that, everyone goes in their own way. And the return is good. A lot of money. If the girl is beautiful, the return increases. And if she is young, the return increases even more. And if she is still a virgin, the return increases even more. I went to the office. They took off the dress I was wearing. They put me in the dressing room. They dressed me as the brides do. They offered me a man and 2 women, until he broke up with me. He saw me and liked me. He wrote an official marriage certificate. He gave me the money and I went with him to a big hotel. I didn't even dream of going there. I spent 2 weeks with him. I was happy. It was the first time I saw food, clothes, makeup. Everything was beautiful. Faisal knew that I was a teacher. He was surprised that I agreed to marry a teacher. He thought I was ignorant. He told me that he wanted to introduce me to his family, and that he wouldn't divorce me and that I would travel with him. He would buy me a house, a servant, and live a life I never dreamed of. He extended his 2-week vacation so that he could give me my papers. I traveled with him after he gave me the money. When I arrived in his country, I discovered the disaster. Faisal married 3 women. He is the last of each of them. He has 12 children. All my dreams were ruined when I saw his wives and children. Faisal made me sit in a servant's room. My job was to teach his children during the day and prepare myself for him at night. Faisal didn't want his children to go to school, so he hired me to teach them at home. If I refused, I would beat him and his wives. If I was stubborn, he would forbid me from eating and drinking. If I spoke in a way they didn't like, they would force me to clean the house instead of the servant. They would lock my room and I would sleep on the couch in front of the house's door. He made me worse than a dog. On top of that, he would come to my room every few days and ask me for my legal rights. If I objected, he would tell me that he is my partner with my money. You are mine and I have the right to do whatever I want with you. If I didn't agree with you, he would force me to do it. Everything was humiliating. Everything was forced. Everything was humiliating. One day, I made a mistake and annoyed his children. At that time, he and his 3 wives beat me. They kept beating me until the neighbors called the police. At that time, it was the first time I left the house. I went to the hospital and they took Faisal by the name. Everyone who was at home saw that I fell on the stairs and no one touched me. But the hospital reports showed the effects of the beating and the swelling on my body. I had a broken arm, a broken bone, and a lot of bruises. A few days later, when I was able to speak, they came to me and I explained everything to them. They contacted the embassy and Faisal insisted that he take me back to his house. But I insisted on getting a divorce and I was sent to court. I went back to my country with my hands behind my back and my hands in front of me. I went back to my parents' house, but I didn't find anyone. Neither my brothers nor my daughters. Not even my mother and father. I lied to one of the neighbors and told her that my mother died 2 months after I got married. She told me that she didn't have money to pay for all the laundry sessions. I was shocked. My father had enough money to pay for more than 50 laundry sessions. How did this happen? My brothers all fled the house after my mother's death. No one knew their way back. But my father was still at home. I waited for him to come back. At 2 o'clock in the morning, he came back and he looked happy. When he saw me at the door, his face changed. He looked at me and said, "What? What brought you home at this time? What brought you home? I've been waiting for you for more than 7 hours, Father. What did your father do to you? What brought you home? I got divorced after I was humiliated and I was gonna die. I told him to go back to my parents' house." Your parents' house? My brother's family? My brother's family? Of course, he came with his hands behind his back and his hands in front of him. I told you I was humiliated and I was going to die. The next morning, I woke up at my father's hand and he woke me up. What? Wake up, son. Yes, Father. What do you want? Prepare me a bite of an apple. Yes, Father. Where are my brothers? Your brothers left the house and fled after your mother died. Just like I killed her. How did my mother die? How did my mother die? Your mother was sick? Or you don't know? No, I know. And I know I sold myself for money to cure her. Or are you the one who doesn't know, Father? Money is not enough, my love. Money is not enough to cure my mother and your mood. You spend it on the bees you hit. I'm telling you, I'm gonna throw you out like a dog. And the humiliation you saw from your husband, I can show you its multiples. Respect yourself and raise him while you talk to your father. And wake up and prepare me breakfast. I knew I couldn't live with him like this. I had to find a solution. I started looking for a job and God blessed me with a school. But it wasn't enough for me to rent a room. I looked for a lot of my brothers, but unfortunately I couldn't find them. I found out from one of my brother's friends that they traveled to another province, and they didn't want to tell anyone about them. I understood from them that they didn't want me either, and I had no choice but to stay with my father. I worked all day and went home to sleep, and I was missing a lot of things. I was only missing the food I brought from abroad, and my old food was in the closet. I had to look good and buy food for them for school, and at the same time I had to bring food and drink for myself. And the world, thank God, was going well and my circumstances began to improve. And to my surprise, my father began to improve his style with me. I was surprised at first, but then I knew why. My father was nice and gentle with me because he wanted to sell me again. And when I refused, he beat me. So I left him the house and went to a student's house to sit in. But he didn't leave me alone. He went to the school I was working at, and the manager came in and told him things like, "I'm sick of you." And on the same day, I made the decision to refuse. And I didn't shut up, nor did I calm down. Every time I went to work in a new place, he did the same thing. And I was rejecting him every time, until all the secrets were covered in my face. And I had to go sit with him again. At that time, I had no choice but to agree to sell. Maybe a good guy will come, but he won't look like Faisal. And I made an account that if I get married again, I'll have to take the money myself. I'll take them in my hand. I agreed and we went to Sabr al-Bab. And Sabr told my father that Bint al-Banaut was more expensive. And my father's money was overpriced. And he let Sabr take me to the doctor who worked with them so that he could do the operation and get Bint al-Banaut back. And I was sold again. And I found out that my father was in debt from Sabr for my sales fee. I mean, I didn't get anything. I didn't get a penny. I was sold for free. And from man to man. Every time I had an operation and every time I had money, my father was in debt. And I didn't get a penny from him. 7 men in 2 years. Until I had no feelings left. I felt like I was nothing. I had no value. I knew that I was going to die of illness or suicide. No one can bear this kind of life. No one can bear to live what I lived. I used to take drugs like a bomb. I didn't want to feel or think. I didn't want to see myself in their lives. And then Sabr sent me. "How are you, Maha? How is your wife?" "She is fine, Dad. She sent me and she needs me." "What does she want?" "What does she want from you?" "She wants you to work." "Don't leave me, Dad." and have mercy on me. And what about you? Don't you have anyone else? No, I have sister. But the client asked for your name. And the client will know me and ask for my name, God willing. He saw your picture and liked it. And he asked for your name. And this time you will call me Dad. And I won't say anything, right? No. This time you will lose the money in your hands. And the word stop means stop. This time he will call you by your name, so you won't call him dad or brother. Your money is in the hands of the ladies. The ladies? And what about the ladies? Is there a surgery this time? No, there is nothing. The groom wants you as you are. And it doesn't matter if he is a man or a woman. And when is the wedding? Don't worry about that. We have the papers and the documents. You just go to the girl and tell her to arrange the wedding. And I will take you to the groom's apartment. Okay, brother. Ola, my girl. I dressed up and got ready. And I went with Sabri to the apartment. The road was on the phone. And when we went upstairs, he gave me a shirt and told me to get ready. And he went down to get the groom. I tried to get any information from him about the groom. At least I knew his name. But he told me to get to know him when he arrives. It didn't matter to me. He is a man like any other man. It doesn't matter much. I entered the room and prepared myself as he asked me to. And after 10 minutes, I heard the door opening and closing. I stayed in my place to meet the groom. And when the door opened, I saw him in front of me. He was smiling and happy, as if he didn't believe me. What are you doing here? You ruined your house. What did you bring? What do you want from me? It was Faisal. He told me that he missed me. And he is mad at me because I left the country. I left him. He told me that I stopped loving him. He threatened me that he would leave me. I tried to stay away from him, but there was no escape. He told me that going to the bathroom is not like going out. And he told me that I am his wife, and I am in his house. He told me to stay away from him, because of his mood, because of his money. I threatened him that if he doesn't stay away from me, he will throw himself out of the balcony. He laughed. I swear he laughed. He told me that if I didn't notice him, I would be in the second floor, meaning that I won't die, but your bone will be broken, and I will treat you and take you with me again. I tried to run away from him, and I started to run from him, and I threw anything that came in front of me that I could remove, until I reached the kitchen. There was a box of knives on the marble. I pulled the biggest knife that came in my hand, and Jim came behind me and hugged me, and he didn't see that I had the knife. And when we reached the bed, he threw me, and he was going to attack me. Then he noticed that I had the knife in my hand. He got scared and went back 2 steps. I got up quickly and hit him in the stomach, and in his chest. I tried to run away, but I hit him again, until he fell next to the bed. Blood was coming down from everywhere. The white coat he was wearing turned red. I threw the knife from my hand and stood in front of him. I don't know how much, until I heard people knocking on the door, and I knew that it was over. There was no hope. I pulled my coat and stood on the bed. I hung it in the canopy, and I wrapped it around my neck. And after that, I didn't feel anything except when I was in the hospital. I continued talking to her, and I learned a lot of details from her, about the pub and the tourist office, and the tourist pass that she talked about. I felt that all my doubts towards Sabri were real. He is really the secret behind everything. I talked to the president and explained everything to them. And at that time, Maha's case had to be closed, and a new case had to be opened. The case of the tourist office. Peace be upon you. Is teacher Sabri Al-Bab here? I am Sabri Al-Bab, your servant. I am Bilal, the representative of Sheikh Amr al-Raja, and I came to ask you for a service. Welcome Sheikh and his representatives. We are at your service. We have everything you need. We came to you with an order from one of your guests, and he told us that you have everything, and that you provide all their needs. You just order, you just talk, and we will do it. Yes, our service is 5 stars. Why not? Of course, Sheikh Amran wants a bride. She is here. He wants her to be white, brown, tall, fat. Daughter of a daughter. What does Sheikh want? The Sheikh wants something. I don't know if it is available to you or not. By God, Everything is available. Tell me what you want. The sheik likes young girls. 12 years old. That's all? It is available. But their price is a little high, because they are young and no one has touched them. The money is available. You just provide what the sheik asked for and ask for what you want. Consider it available. You don't want it. And what about him? Show me what you have, teacher. Take care of both. Daughter, come here. Bring out the girls. Come stand here. What do you think? Do you like one of these three? No, they are very beautiful. I just have one question. One question. Go ahead and ask. If your daughter is willing to do this to her. And what about the ugly creature in the middle? And the red hair? What about my wife? At that time, the police arrested Sabri, because the deputy of Sheikh Amran's office is the same as Mohammed Al-Husseini, our colleague. And all this was a game to put Sabri in jail, and the case was closed. Today, more than 7 girls in Sabri's office have been arrested. Among them, the infidel Allah, who was Sabri's right-hand man. And of course, during the few days after the arrest of the doll, we arrested many of the people who worked with him. One of them was the doctor who did the surgeries for the girls, and the lawyer and the fortune teller who used to write down the marriage contracts. And of course, the families of some of the poor girls who used to take them to Sabri to sell them. And a large network of taxi drivers who were all interested in taking the men and women who were looking for the tourist passports of Sabri Al-Bab's office. Sabri will be brought to trial, and he will probably get a strict sentence, and all his network. And Maha was also brought to trial. But there is a big lawyer who has been awarded and is being brought up in her case. And mostly, she will be able to get a light sentence. And this is after she knew how to get the hospital reports that Maha entered when she was with Faisal in his country. And the psychological medicine report that confirmed that Maha had a psychological disorder and hallucinations. And she was defending herself when she committed the crime. And that's it. I hope the message in the story has reached you. I know that the story is almost biased to some people, but this is the truth. And we must keep the light even for a while, for a long time on some of these things, because they really exist and no one tells me no, these things have existed for a long time until today. And I think it is our duty to bring an important case every now and then, no matter how biased it is, no matter how much it affects the blind, but we must keep the light on it, even for a single time. Thank you very much for watching this episode, and thank you for reaching this far. I hope if you liked the episode, you like it and share it, and subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Activate the bell button to receive all new, and join the family of the Narrator Group on YouTube to see the stories. Also, join the family of the Narrator Group on Pinterest to receive the story. And as soon as it is uploaded, follow it on YouTube, because the stories there are uploaded daily, every day. And don't forget your brothers and sisters in prayer in Palestine, Gaza, Sudan, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and all the places where Muslims and non-Muslims are weak. May God help them all and have mercy on all our martyrs. See you in the next episode. Good night.